All right, so I thought I would start this session on preclinical MRI by talking about trying to get broader access to the preclinical MRI to the biomedical community at large. And the situation is the following, that in clinical MRI in general, there's some research and development being done at the clinical MRI departments where people are looking into new pulse sequences or new ways of looking at disease. But for the most part, there's a lot of service, so that anyone doing clinical trials or clinical research can go to a radiology department and say, I'd like to look at the outcome of this tumor or whatever over time, and they can basically go ahead and do that. It's not a problem. For preclinical MRI, the situation is a little different, and there's a lot of research and development being done at most of the preclinical MRI sites, meaning that a lot of the work that they do is related to getting new pulse sequences, finding new ways of looking at a disease, with the hope that it'll end up getting translated to clinical trials. But there's relatively little actual service in terms of preclinical research using MRI as an outcome metric. So as an example, I actually called this week and asked how many mice are in our facility at the Beth Israel. We have 3 different animal facilities, and in the 3 combined facilities, I'm told we have 80,000 mice on a daily basis in the hospital. Now, we do about 100 mice a week in terms of MRI, so clearly there's a huge amount of research going on in the preclinical community that isn't utilizing MRI as an outcome metric, which presumably would benefit their studies, at least in some of them, clearly not 80,000, but many of the studies could benefit. And they don't do it in part because I think they're not familiar with preclinical MRI. They're not aware that MRI can be done on small mice, whereas almost any clinician is fully aware of what MRI can do clinically. So they're not aware about it, and again, the access isn't that available. And also, preclinical people can do histology. They can do slice and dice, which you can't do in clinical trials. So our goal is to make preclinical MRI as widely available for research in the preclinical community as clinical MRI is to the clinical research community. And in order to try to do this, we have several systems, very similar to many systems here in Madrid and around the world. We have an 8.5 Tesla vertical system, 4.7 and 9.4 horizontal systems. We do excised or perfused organs, mice, some rats and ferrets, but probably 95% is mouse imaging. And we have a hyperpolarizer to do metabolic studies by MR also. And again, with this, we've been relatively successful at doing a lot of applications, neuro, cardiac. There's renal perfusion, there's a fixed embryo, and this is a pyruvate image. So we can get a lot of information, but the point is that this has been relatively inefficient in that every time someone approaches us, we have to start from scratch and try to get a protocol built up. So our wish list is to expand the number of protocols as opposed to pulse sequences readily available and demonstrate the utility of these in preclinical studies of actual preclinical research. In terms of Madrid and Boston, we'd like to trade protocols with Madrid groups doing preclinical MRI research so that we're not all reinventing the wheel every time someone approaches us to do a preclinical study, and demonstrate the utility with specific projects, potentially initiated here and possibly bringing in a Boston group doing a similar type of preclinical work. And here's our contact information. That's myself, Reza, and Michelle are our lab managers who actually do most of the work. Thank you.